Hello, and welcome to OPL's mini-episode series, New Title Drop, where we share new titles coming out this month of January 2026. I'm Angela, and I'm here with Melanie, and we're both collection development librarians.
Happy New Year, Angela.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's 2026. Do you have some reading goals for this year?
Oh, I have I've been thinking about this a lot because my reading goal is the goal that I keep the most out of any other ones. And for 2025, I decided to try to read 200 books, which was more than I had ever read. It was like 165 before that. So just so you know, readers, that's ridiculous. I do not recommend it unless you are a super fast reader. And I think like people who read one book a year or even read no books a year, but just like play around and like look at different pieces of books, I think that's just as great. Yeah. But for some reason, it makes me happy. I think next year I'm going to focus more on like really doing reading challenges like more in depth and trying to read more physical books because I do a ton of audiobooks, which I love and I don't want to change, but I do want to go back to just like opening a book in my hands and sitting there with it. I think it's a practice that just, I don't know, shows a different kind of love for reading. And for me, like everyone has their style and all styles are great and legitimate, but I like all of them. So I want to try and balance it out a little bit more. I want to read more books in Spanish. That's definitely a goal for me.
Excellent.
And I want to explore like just kind of themes that I haven't, that I've been missing, or just I want to do a little more nonfiction because when I started working at the library, I was reading all nonfiction and I course corrected because I wanted to be able to talk to the patrons about all the amazing fiction we have, which I have enjoyed so much. But I want to go back to a little more nonfiction. That's not necessarily memoir all the time because I love my memoirs, as you know. So how about you?
Excellent. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably set like a number of titles goal like I usually do, but I'm not as concerned with it this year. One of my main goals that I want to kick off the year with is I have a number of books in my house that I've bought over the last year from bookstores, traveling and things like that I haven't actually read yet. And so I want to get through that stack. I'm like, it's sort of a mix of like some classic titles and literary fiction. That's something that I find it harder reading literary fiction through audiobook. I like to sit down and read it with my eyes. And so those are the ones I want to get through first before kind of focusing on anything else. I also want to start taking notes on things that I read a little bit better. I used to do, like in 2020, I started this reading journal where I would track everything and like write, the author's name and the title and the genre. And then I had this little chart where I was marking things and I would write like half a page to a page of my thoughts on it. I don't know that I want to go that extreme again because I don't know that I have the time or energy to do that, but I do at least want to jot down like a sentence or two about how I felt about the book, because a lot of times I'll go back and think about the book and be like, wait, did I like that? Or like, what was I actually feeling while I was reading that? And I forget because you read so many that it's hard to remember.
That happens to me so much. And a few years ago, I stopped rating books, and except like I've said before, I love to, if it's a 5, I will put that on there because I think the book deserves to know. But I really like not rating books. I think that just gives me some freedom. But what I was thinking is you can write the review part without rating it, and then that will go into like the metadata in the same way. And that would help me remember how I felt. Because, sometimes I'm like, what did I think about it? How did I feel afterwards or whatever? And I don't remember. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to like journal and think about the books that I've read in that way. But it's just also so fast. Like, you know, you're reading 2, 3, 7 books a week.
When you go through them so quickly.
And so then all of a sudden it's just like, I don't have time for that.
Right.
Like, while I'm writing about this, I could be reading another one.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, no, I want to get to the next one now.
It's a little intense, listeners. We do not recommend this level of book obsession, but if you have it, you know the right place to be.
That's right. And if you have it, we have some January titles to share with you. I think you've got one to share first.
I've got so many to share. You all, this was a great month because I could not it was hard to narrow it down. And I love that feeling because then I look forward to so many of them.
Yeah.
The first one I actually got a chance to read already, which is not always the case because these books haven't come out when we write about them and talk about them. So this is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney, which is one of my favorite thriller writers. She just does an amazing job. And this was one of the best I've read in a long time. I've been in kind of a thriller slump where they start to get really formulaic after a while. And that's part of the draw. But there just hasn't been one that's kind of surprised me and I've enjoyed. This one had a lot of play of characters that I didn't expect. And they were like very mysterious, all of them, but also kind of well developed in a way that you could like kind of, you could identify them easily. And there was a vibe to them that they weren't just like, oh, I hate this character or I love this character. It was ambiguous, which I love in a thriller. So the very beginning of the book, you get dropped into a really weird situation. And if you listen to the audiobook, there's like sounds. So like our narrator is running. And so you hear her steps while she's running. Her name is Eden Fox, and she's running while she contemplates her art exhibition that is opening that very night in this small, beautiful, idyllic town that she recently moved into. And she's excited about the potential for her new life because there's been several changes that have gone on. So she gets home and she puts her key in the door and it does not work. It doesn't open the lock. And after fidgeting a bunch of times, she just starts knocking on the door. What the heck is going on? A woman opens the door to her house and claims that she is Eden Fox.
No.
And the house is hers.
What?
She's like, no, this is ridiculous. What's going on? And she starts like trying to get like, where's her husband? What's going on? So then her husband shows up like right behind this imposter. And he's like, who are you? This is my wife. So she left for a run. So she doesn't have her phone. She doesn't have her wallet. She has no identifying information. So what the heck is going on? Also, 6 months earlier, we have another protagonist who lived in this same house. She got the house from her grandmother who willed it to her, who she didn't even thought about her anymore. And she's a recluse, and her life has just dramatically changed by a medical diagnosis. So in this house, she started to find secrets from the past and lead her down a very tricky, complicated, and dangerous path. It's usually difficult to make several twists in a book without you seeing them coming, but this one had a ton.
Nice.
I was so surprised by some of the things that came up, and I wasn't expecting, and some of them I was thinking, oh, this is what's going to happen. And it was never exactly what I thought was going to happen, but it was going in certain directions. And it just kept happening. Like I was like, okay, this is the resolution, but no, I still have this much time to finish. So there's more. And then there was more. It was so interesting. Lisa Jewell says, my husband's wife is propulsive, compulsive, addictive, and everything else you could possibly want a psychological thriller to be. I read it in under one day, breathlessly, with wide eyes, and in awe of a writer at the top of their game. And Frida McFadden said it had nonstop thrills from the first page and kept me guessing until the end. The best Feeney book yet. And I agree.
Nice.
Out on January 27th.
Awesome. Can't wait to read that one. All right. My first one to share is A Box Full of Darkness by Simone St. James. It comes out January 20th. I am consistently a fan of Simone St. James's paranormal thrillers, so I'm really looking forward to this one. And the publisher says that this is her scariest, most shocking novel yet. This one shares a setting from her 2020 novel, The Sundown Motel, which I actually realized is one that I haven't read yet. So now I feel like I need to go do that. But I don't get the impression that you need to read that one before this one. So I don't think you need to do that, only if you have like completist tendencies like I do sometimes. So siblings Violet, Vale, and Dodie have returned to their childhood home in Fell, New York after fleeing 18 years ago. Why did they flee? Well, strange things happen in that town. A mysterious drowning, then an unexplained death by the railroad tracks. And then their younger brother, Ben, went missing while they were playing hide and seek, and he has never been found. The siblings have been haunted by this mystery ever since. And then they receive a haunting message from Ben saying, come home. Mm-hmm. So they head back to try to solve this mystery. But as we've learned, that wasn't the only weird thing that happened in this town. And the siblings themselves have their own eerie issues. Violet in particular sees dead people and was previously tormented by a presence referred to as sister. The description says, after 2 decades running from their past, it's time for a homecoming. Because Ben is back and he's ready to lead them to the answers they've longed for and long feared, if the ghosts of Fell don't get them first. And a book list star reviewed says, from the book's chillingly creepy setting to a nerve-jangling plot that effectively borrows from a mix of genres to the writing itself, which shimmers with a dazzling, sharp sense of wit, everything about Simone St. James's latest is done to perfection.
Ooh, well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, time for some nonfiction. I brought the memoir Homeschooled by Stephen Merrill Block, coming out on January 6th. Right after homeschooling became legal in Block's home state of Texas, and before it was a popular movement, his mother decided that she should homeschool him in order to not stunt his creativity and so that she could spend more time with him. Although her love for him was clear, her experiments and whims in his education ended up having consequences that he soon had to navigate as a student back in the education system in the 9th grade. This novel-like memoir captures with love and compassion a difficult and painful time with so many unforeseen consequences. With a view into an often overlooked part of the education system, this personal and meaningful memoir is an important book at this process both historically and for the present. Emma Straub says Homeschooled unlocks the door to a private universe in a carpeted house in Plano, Texas, occupied for years by just middle school age Stefan and his mother. Block is unflinching in both his honesty about his unhappiness and his profound love for the mother who didn't want to let him grow up. An important book for our current world. Block's brave story will help a lot of people feel less alone. An instant classic. Michael Cunningham adds, Stephen Merrill Block's Homeschooled is a love story and a domestic horror story. So insightfully written that you can't always separate its loving aspects from its horrifying ones. Its depiction of familiar terrors, all inflicted in the name of devotion, driven by the all too human need for more devotion and yet more, raised the hairs on the back of my neck. I didn't fully realize I'd read it in a single sitting until it became clear that dusk had fallen and it was time to turn the lights on.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is Missing Sam by Thriti Omrigar. It comes out January 27th. Omrigar, whose name you may recognize from her 2022 novel Honor, which was a Reese's book club pick, now has this new tense and twisty thriller coming soon. Married couple Allie and Sam go to a party. Old grievances surface. They get into an argument. The next day, Sam goes for a run. Lots of people going for runs here to clear her head, but she doesn't return. I seem to have this theme this month of people going missing. So Allie, a gay Muslim daughter of immigrants, reports Sam missing, but is under scrutiny and suspicion from strangers and acquaintances alike. Allie simultaneously fights to prove her innocence while fearing Sam has left her or worse, is dead. The publisher calls this a provocative examination of suburban mores. Missing Sam captures the terror manifested in today's political climate and the real dangers, both physical and psychological, of being brown and queer in America. And Caroline Leavitt says, Omrigar's compelling latest is both a brilliant psychological thriller and a deeply emotional meditation on race, sexuality, culture, marriage, and family, both the ones we come from and the ones we are lucky enough to create. Filled with achingly believable characters, the story keeps twisting and turning where you least expect until I was holding my breath even as I couldn't stop turning pages. Yes, it's achingly about enduring trauma, but it's also about what a force our inner light can be against the darkness.
Ooh. So good. I have a debut novel that I'm really excited about. I love recommending debut novels because I think it's so important to see new authors and new voices and just kind of listen to them, because sometimes they kind of get lost in the shuffle because there's so many really popular authors that are consistently coming out with books. So this is How to Commit Post-Colonial Murder by Nina McConigley. In the summer of 1986, two sisters welcome their family, who is newly arrived from India, in their home in Wyoming. Everything is going to be fine until they decide their uncle needs to die.
Oh, okay.
It really is all the fault of the British, according to one of the sisters. And her teenage reflection is pop culture teen magazine / historical / social identity. The story unravels as a multidimensional mystery thriller with a lot more to say about culture and what it means to be from many places. Celeste Nigg says, I have been waiting for Nina McConigley's debut novel for years, and it's even better than I could have imagined. How to Commit Post-Colonial Murder takes all the expected stories about growing up Indian American, slices them up with razor-sharp wit, and turns them inside out. A moving portrayal of sisterhood and a much-needed examination of how power is abused over girls, over countries, over cultures, and the possibilities, the costs of reclaiming that power. And Jessamine Chan calls it tender, defiant, and formally daring. Nina McConigley's stunning debut novel, How to Commit a Post-Colonial Murder, is not the expected brown person story, but rather a tale of sisterhood and survival, a child's yearning for safety and protection, and the search for wholeness in a world that wants to split you in half. I fell in love with McConigley's fierce, wry narrator Georgie Ayar from the first page and couldn't stop reading. A powerful, groundbreaking book out on January 20th.
Great. I also have a debut novel coming out January 20th to share. So Hemlock by Melissa Falveno is a moody debut novel following another character named Sam, who I'm pretty sure is not the same one that went missing in the last book I just talked about. Because in this one, Sam's mother has vanished, and I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm in such a vanishing vibe right now. But anyway, this Sam returns from New York back to the Wisconsin Northwoods, and specifically back to Hemlock, her family's cabin there, that she is hoping to fix up and sell. But as the description says, a quick practical trip takes a turn for the worse when the rot and creak of the forest starts to creep in around the edges of Sam's mind. It starts, as it always does, with a beer, as Sam dips back into the murky waters of dependency. The inexplicable begins to arrive at her door, and her body takes on a strange new shape. She senses she is battling something sinister, whether nested in the woods or within herself. Library Journal says that while it's categorized as Gothic literary fiction, readers who like psychological horror, folk horror, or botanical horror may also enjoy this one. And a Booklist Star review says, Hemlock is a propulsive, atmospheric story of ghosts, monsters, and transformation, with a sharp eye for gender dynamics and the queer experience in rural places. This tension-filled exploration of an inescapable haunting is a nuanced story of addiction and inheritance.
Okay, now I have a romantic fantasy historical fiction book.
Okay.
Yes. So the cover is what attracted me to it. It is beautiful, and we know that I pick books for their covers a lot. It is colorful and bright, and I just want to know the story of the woman standing there seriously holding something powerful that clearly looks like magic. The cover is very classical, colorful. You can just tell there's a story here. So Ravina Maffei is a sculptress with a dark secret. She enters a competition hosted by a dangerous immortal family in Florence, Italy. She becomes trapped and must fulfill her mission or risk death. But she soon realizes that other dangers abound. The Pope has launched a war against magic, and she soon becomes the center of this fight. She has to fight this terrible family and those who wish to attain her power. Ava Reed says, a breathtaking blend of intricate magic, riveting intrigue, and hypnotic romance in a lush historical setting that flares to life on every page. I never wanted to leave the glimmering, immortally enchanting world of Graceless Heart. And Adrienne Young adds lush, evocative, and utterly enthralling. This is historical fantasy at its finest, with prose as sharp as a sculptor's chisel, a romance that burns slow and deep, and a world brimming with political intrigue and whispered magic. This book will carve itself into your heart and never let go.
Oof.
Out on January 13th.
All right. Excellent. Okay. The last one I have to share is The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead. Comes out January 20th. If you've been wanting a new great man story since Daisy Jones and the Six or the final revival of Opal and Nev, this may be it. The Future Saints is described by the publisher as a beautiful new novel about a music executive desperately trying to bring a rock band back from the brink. Theo, the music executive, meets the band, the Future Saints, when they are in a downward spiral. Their manager has recently died, and the lead singer Hannah's grief over it has had consequences on the band. She's changed their sound from California pop to gut-wrenching rock, and she's having a hard time preparing for the fame that she's been wanting. Still, Theo works with them to try to get them a new start with a new album and a new tour. But along the way with that comes managing substance abuse issues, erratic behaviors, and band instabilities, as most band stories do. Author Genevieve Wheeler says, a haunting exploration of grief, self-destruction, and fame, Ashley Winstead's Future Saints is unsurprisingly a masterpiece. It has all of the charm of her romances and propulsion of her thrillers, packed up in a beautifully crafted, transportive work of literary fiction that's perfect for anyone who has ever had a complex relationship with family, biological or found, spent their summers at Warped Tour, or fallen in love with someone young and reckless.
Wow. Okay. I am utterly delighted to talk to you about a book by one of my favorite authors that is coming out this January. Jeanette Winterson has a book called One Aladdin, Two Lamps, coming out on the 20th. Is this book fiction or nonfiction? The answer is yes. Winterson's storytelling has always been original and innovative. She says, I can change the story because I am the story. In this book, she intersperses the story of 1001 Nights, a woman telling her story every night for survival, with her own memoir. As a young working class woman with limited paths shown as available to her, she decided to make her own story and write her fiction into her truth. This book explores existential questions about love and identity while reminding us of the exploration of life through the stories we tell. Can Can we reimagine the world around us by making it what we want it to be? Are our fictions lies or prophecies? The Independent calls it a dazzling blend of fiction, memoir, essay, and magical storytelling. One Aladdin, Two Lamps is a riveting look at humanity at an existential crossroads. And Agella Lawson says, I just devoured it. A story about storytelling as well as a rousing track about the power of reading. At its heart, really, it's about what it means to be human. I love the particularity of Winterson's voice, its intensity, its spirited seriousness.
Wow. That sounds like a great book to kick off the new year with.
To inspire you for all of your reading goals or non-reading goals.
There you go. So all the titles mentioned can be found in a list in our episode description. Stop by on the first Tuesday of every month to hear about new books coming out, dropping that month. That's our episode. Thanks for joining us for New Title Drop, January 2026.